read this into the record. This just in, and just to show you, when you do things the right way, which is what we do on this program, and you can bring the county executive and you can bring the distinguished council president in Atlantic City, and you get the other people who are either in positions or want to be in certain positions responding, because this is the only program, this is the only member of the media that has put this issue out to the public in any cogent manner. We have a formal statement from the Republican candidates for the New Jersey legislature, Phil Guenther and John Risley, on the pending tax increases in Atlantic City, and they write as follows. For years now, Mazzeo has bragged about being the architect of the pilot legislation, which gave a sweetheart deal to Atlantic City casinos by removing them from the tax rolls and exempting them from paying property taxes for a decade. It was clear from day one that as a result of Mazzeo's ill-conceived pilot proposal that was forced on Atlantic County by the Democrat majority in Trenton, the hardworking residents of Atlantic City would bear the full brunt of any tax increases in the city, which has now become a reality. As your assemblyman, one of our first priorities will be to introduce legislation to fix the mess Mazzeo's pilot has created. So interesting to note that now is front and center, a major issue in this campaign. Perfect way to end the hour, and it was a serious, really important hour in the history of the Hurley in the Morning program, and I don't inflate that. Mayor Phil Guenther, who we better make sure he is Assemblyman Phil Guenther. If you don't think it matters who your state representatives are, look at what we're talking about here today and what Mazzeo has done and our motto has done. Mayor Phil Guenther joins us. Time for a quick comment. I did share your press release earlier in the hour. Mayor, time is yours.
Well, thank you, Harry, and great interview with Council President Small. He is dealing with the aftermath of the Mazzeo's pilot that everyone who was involved trying to fight the pilot knew was going to happen, and that was Atlantic City residents were going to bear the brunt of any future tax increases in Atlantic City, with the casinos being exempted from those increases, and that's exactly what they're dealing with. We tried, as you know, I was a member of the Mayor's Association at the time. We joined the county in filing suit to at least try and get the 13.5% back that was promised. And Chris Brown did everything he could, but I have to tell you that John Risley and I are committed to working with Chris Brown to change this pilot legislation so that it's fair to everyone, and the group that's most impacted are the residents of Atlantic City.
Mayor, we're down to 20 seconds. I would offer you a few more minutes if your schedule permits, but I know you're driving and I don't know. Do you have a few more minutes, or do you need to go for today?
No, I'm good for about 15 more minutes.
All right, that's going to work out great, because we'll be gone for 4. I'm going to ask Gary to just give me 10 minutes, and then we'll do Gary Aldrich for the rest of the next hour. Back with Mayor Guenther. More to cover. Mayor Guenther has until our first break in 10 minutes, so let's make it count. Let me read this. He is here, but I want to share the statement from Guenther and Risley, and it reads as follows. Quote, for years now, Mazzeo has bragged about being the architect of the pilot legislation, which gave a sweetheart deal to Atlantic City casinos by removing them from the tax rolls and exempting them from paying property taxes for a decade. It was clear from day one that as a result of Mazzeo's ill-conceived pilot proposal that was forced on Atlantic County by the Democrat majority in Trenton, the hardworking residents of Atlantic City would bear the full brunt of any tax increases in the city, which has now become a reality. As your Assemblyman, one of our first priorities will be to introduce legislation to fix the mess Mazzeo's pilot has created. We're now continuing with Mayor Phil Guenther, Republican nominee, along with his running mate John Risley, for the New Jersey General Assembly. As I said in my interview to Council President Small, there's no surprises here. We knew the county would not be giving a $7 million rebate. That's gone. They knew where the ratables had declined. They knew that Hard Rock, which initially paid some really nice taxes before they came officially on board, that would go and that they would become part of the pilot. this is one of those things that I think you can appreciate this mayor as a mayor that's responsible to the taxpayers for taxes, and some of these other people, these creatures in the swamp that vote for these things and they don't have to face the music. These aren't assumptions, these were certainties. Every single one of these things we knew would be happening, and Denny and I on this program, interviews that I've done with you and Risley and others, this just happens to now be the time that it's actually happening. But this should come as no surprise, Mayor Guenther, to anyone. This was a certainty.
It was, Harry, and what it has caused is really a financial crisis in Atlantic City. And if you listen to Council President Small's comments about this year is bad, next year is even going to be worse. As you know, in municipal budgeting, when you have either a revenue deficit or you have changing ratables, you still have that budget. So it's a function of ratables and spending, and they are going to be facing a significant crisis unless something changes in the way that taxes are spread among the taxpayers in Atlantic City with this pile of legislation.
Let me ask you this, because you can appreciate this because you're going to be on the ballot. I'm thinking for the first time ever district-wide. Obviously, you've been very successful in every election that you've run to date. I don't believe you've ever lost an election. But my point is that I get just almost beside myself over monolithic voting. If Atlantic City, and it's probably going to happen, if there was ever a time they would say, wait a minute now, Mazzeo and Armato screwed us. Why would people vote for people that did this to them? But I would still believe, just like Robert Byrd in Virginia, a KKK Grand Kleagle, would get 95% of certain votes. I think the Democrats, even after sticking it to Atlantic City, will still do tremendous in Atlantic City. Do you find that almost incomprehensible but true?
Well, Harry, John and I are working hard in Atlantic City, and you're absolutely right. The taxpayers in Atlantic City have been screwed, and it continues to go on. When you look at, the Atlantic City takeover, Mazzeo was against the takeover before he was for the takeover.
Yeah, he was I want to make it clear because I was the MC of the event. Mazzeo was for it on the day, basically, that we won it. He was against it when it was the hard slog and when we were told, hey, we better just settle for what we can get. This is inevitable. He was part of the inevitable crowd. And I want to do a quick little history lesson to who you're running against, Mayor Guenther. You're running against someone, it's almost like Joe Biden at the state level here, who has been around for way too long, that's been wrong on every major issue. He was with Whalen when Whalen was shutting the casinos down on July 4th. That was just an abomination. He was with them. He didn't vote for that, but he was with them. He was with him when it was to stick it to Atlantic City and have casinos open up in North Jersey. Hard Rock would not be here. Imagine how many more casinos would have closed, how many tens of thousands of more employees would be out of work. He voted against our veterans and voted for illegals to get millions of dollars worth of benefits at the expense of our veterans and other law-abiding, actual legal citizens of our area. He was on the wrong side of that issue, and he's on the wrong side of this issue with his horrendous actions. And remember him with never even going into committee meetings, hiding out, scared, afraid to even be seen, but always voting against our best interests. His record is so indefensible that I can hardly believe he's still standing.
Absolutely, Harry. And going back to the North Jersey casinos, when Chris Brown had a resolution, and as you and I both know, a resolution is really a statement of a position in the legislature. It's not a bill. It's not legislative, but it's a statement of a position that the representative, the assemblyman from our district, couldn't sign a resolution against North Jersey casinos.
Well, remember, he did sign it, and then he was even worse. Coward whited his name out, and then wouldn't even take responsibility for whiting his name out. He wound up defacing Senator Brown's resolution. by signing it and then whiting his name out. We still don't have, there's only a couple of people it could be. We still don't have accountability. The press was in the tank, so they never cared to find out what happened there, but we know who whited it out. He was against us then. He's been against us on all these things. I'll tell you, if not now, future Assemblyman Guenther, when? How can this guy have any chance this November 1st Tuesday? I can't imagine it after his record.
Well, John and I are going to be out, telling our story about where we think Atlantic County needs to go. We're part of a great ticket with Denny Levinson and Amy Gatto and Sam Mahunder from Atlantic City and Rich Days. We really feel that we have the individuals on the ticket who have the best interest of Atlantic County. We're going to stand up for Atlantic County, and we want to join Chris Brown in making sure that our region gets the respect that it deserves. The latest blow that I saw too, regardless of how you feel about the change in the form of government in Atlantic City, to move the goalposts during the game and to make the residents get more signatures if they want to change the form of government. Regardless of how you feel about that, it really is an attempt to disenfranchise the voters in Atlantic City.
You could not be more correct about it. It's disgusting, actually. If you want to say, hey, you've already started, this is something that'll take place at another time or whatever. But yes, they started under one set of rules, and it's not a small change. It's like twice as many they need. They're going to get them anyhow. They have over half of what they need, but they would have already satisfied the statute, and now because they changed it, and again, Mazzeo, you can always count on him to vote against the citizens. He's almost has a perfect record.
It's incredible, and it's as if he and the Democrat majority in Trenton, that they know better than the residents and voters in the district he represents. It's a long line of these things, the pilot being the one that we're seeing the greatest impact right now. But even his stance on, forcing this countywide tax assessment program, which he's had to back off of, and now this, increase in the number of signatures that the voters in Atlantic City need, all of this really signals a complete disrespect for the people who vote in Atlantic City.
Yeah, and in his case, it's even sadder because he is nothing more than just a seat warmer. He's like one of those cardboard things at the Academy Awards. They don't want to let it look empty, no empty seats, so they put like a seat filler or a cardboard life-sized photo of a human. And because that seat's not empty now it's occupied, it's full, it's got an occupant. He is a functionary order taker that the money that he accepts to win these elections over multiple cycles puts him in a position where he has to vote. If they said you will vote to shut the casinos down in Atlantic City, he would vote that way. If they say you will support North Jersey casinos, he will do that. You will vote against veterans. You will vote against the citizens and their right to remonstrate, to redress their government. He is always on the wrong side. He is a swamp creature at this point.
And Harry, that people of Atlantic County deserve better. We're at a point where we are making some gains under the leadership of Denny Levinson and Chris Brown, trying to obviously grow the aviation research park, making sure that there are good paying jobs for the residents of Atlantic County. And Atlantic City is a vital part of that mix. It's the economic engine for our county that has to continue to be strong. So those basic municipal services that make our residents and visitors feel safe, to have a community that is clean and welcoming, they're in jeopardy under this pilot, and we have to fix it.
Mayor, appreciate your leadership. I really am glad that we got to put a cap on this with your visit this morning, and I look forward to the next opportunity that you, John, and I have the opportunity to convene, because this is, every election's important. This one It's one of the most important in our lifetime. We have to make sure Denny continues as county executive, and he will, and we have to make change in the legislature. We're flat out being disserved at this point. We not only don't have representatives, we have enemies. We have people working against us. It's one thing, I mean, if you were just ineffectual and a scaredy cat zombie and you didn't do anything to hurt us, then we would have that conversation that we could do better. We have people that are voting against our self-interest, and I don't think anybody can deny that, Mayor. That's not a lie. That's not spin. That's not politics. That is the truth. And I have cited, and you have cited, I think between us, maybe about 6 or 7 major issues. We're not just cherry picking. This is a consistent pattern of Vince Mazzeo consistently over years voting against the best interests of our district. We can't have this any longer. It's too important.
Obviously, I agree, Harry, and John and I, we answer to the voters and the taxpayers in Atlantic County and no one else.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to talk to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You take care.
You're welcome. Mayor Phil Guenther.